I'm calling out Alex Hormozi. If somebody made a post and said, hey guys, I put on 35 pounds in 6 weeks, what would you all think? 35 pounds in 6 weeks. During this transformation, in 6 weeks, I'm gonna repeat that, 6 weeks, he put on 35 pounds. Coach Greg, in today's video, as much as I hate having to do this, I'm calling out Alex Hormozi. In his latest post on Instagram, he said, guess which of these photos that I'm not natural in? And his answer, none. I'm natural in all of them. The only problem is he didn't fact check. And so I've watched a number of his videos and he's getting his facts mixed up. But what really hits home, and is the reason I believe he's a retroactive fake natty, is what he said about his transformation in 2015. Now remember, in this latest post, he says, I was natural to 2018. And at that point, I started to take HRT. And so let's begin with the post on Instagram. Let's look at his amazing transformation. Him at 15, this is elite genetics. He looks incredible. The guy has amazing genetics. And so when I started this investigation, I thought, I'm going to make a video and I'm going to show that he's in fact natural, that he's being 100% honest, but that he most likely had body dysmorphia. He's saying he's natural in all of these photos. These are pics of me through the ages at different training cycles, goals, weights, ages. There's a lot. I take 75 milligrams a week of testosterone replacement therapy now, been 6 years now, and I don't do a lot because I don't want my heart to hypertrophy. Why dudes on gear die early. In the 4 times I got tested before, my highest was 270 nanograms per deciliter. That's the highest he'd ever had while being 100% natural. But look at those old photos. Does that look like a guy that needs testosterone? So I went on and I gained more muscle. My test stays around 600-ish now, but I trained for a very long time natural, 14 years. Set a few state records, still natural, and got pretty strong. For those who wonder why I went on, I always wanted to try it like every natty person, and getting my low score gave me moral permission to go on. That's how I felt at least. And so I was gonna say, hey, most likely he just has body dysmorphia. I mean, after all, let's examine his photos. When you look like this, do you need to take HRT? Do you need to change your diet, your training? Do you need to change anything? And remember, this was not something he did once. Let's scroll through the photos. Does that look healthy to you? Many of you are thinking, yes, that's the epitome of health. And when you're at 6 or 7% body fat and he's not even competing in a bodybuilding competition, why would he do that? Why would he push himself to this extent? And when he looked like this, guess what? He ate no fat and no carbs, only protein. Does anyone think that's healthy? And so why would you do that? Why would you be on an only protein diet? Well, I'll tell you why. Perhaps you have body dysmorphia. You feel fat. You don't feel worthy. You're trying to change your physique into something that it wasn't meant to be. There's no way you can convince me that this is a physique you should try to aspire to look like year round. I always hated people who claim natty who weren't. And I want to be clear, I don't claim natty. I was for 14 years, then went on TRT. And as soon as I got on, I did more. And so what he's saying is, he started on HRT, but then he did a lot more. To me, what that means is he did a small-ish cycle. He wasn't only on HRT, and if you look at that massive photo of the guys looking like a Sasquatch, he kind of reminds me of Santana Anderson and IFBB Pro from my local area. He looks massive, and so you can't convince me that this was just low-dose HRT. It was perhaps high-dose HRT, but I'm calling it a small cycle. Then after the first 4 months, went down to 75 milligrams a week and stayed there since. And so what I believe happened is he went on HRT, but instead of doing just HRT, he went on a full-blown cycle. I'm not going to say, I can't speculate, I'm not Derek, I can't say exactly how many milligrams I think he did, but what I do believe is, I don't think it was just HRT. Look at the muscle he put on. And many of you are saying, yeah, but I like Alex. He wouldn't do that. Well, think of this. If you have body dysmorphia and you really care about being shredded, so much so that you're trying to get single-digit body fat, perhaps year-round, you're dieting to get shredded, you're only eating protein, do you not think it's likely that you might have taken, I don't know, a SARM, a peptide, MK677, something? And clearly he has elite level genetics. I don't care what you say, what you think, he, I believe, is only on 75 milligrams a week right now. But what I'm arguing is the timeline. Let's now examine 2015, 3 years before he took HRT. And so perhaps he got to his natural genetic limit and wanted to experiment. He wanted to do a small cycle. Many people have wanted this. And so he ended up going on HRT. But looking at that physique, does it look like he needed it? Now, when he was on the video with Derek from More Plates for More Dates,
everything should have been 100% aligned. And my testosterone at that point, and that was after bulking, overfeeding, sleeping 10 hours, like everything I possibly could, it was 270.
Now remember this, is it possible that he got tested while he was at an extremely low level of body fat, that he was on a crash diet, perhaps only eating protein, that would lower his testosterone levels? Of course it is. If you have low levels of testosterone, perhaps you're not eating enough, you're not taking in enough nutrition, you can of course get G-test, it may in fact help, but aside from that, you have to eat more. It's not healthy to maintain a body fat level that's too low for your own health.
And that was after bulking, overfeeding, sleeping 10 hours, like everything I possibly could, it was 270.
And so did you hear that? And so remember, you might have been thinking, yeah, but he was on a diet, he was only eating protein, he was ripped. This was after bulking, after eating as much as he could possibly put into his body. His testosterone levels were only 270, and so he needed it, right?
Trevor, when I told him about this, he was like, oh, you don't have low testosterone. You're just incredibly receptive to testosterone, so you don't need much. He's like, these ranges are completely arbitrary. Fast forward to 2019, I did my blood levels again, and they tested it, and I was like 74. It was super low.
And so in 2019, they tested his blood work again. His testosterone levels were 74. 74 double-digit testosterone levels in 2019. And so his range of testosterone, his entire life essentially, was between 74 and 270. Yet, have we looked at his physique? Does it look like a guy with low testosterone levels? That for some reason he's been crash dieting and he can't build any muscle? When you have a physique like that, it's not a result from having low testosterone levels.
Fast forward to 2019, I did my blood levels again, and they tested it, and I was like 74. It was super low. They were like almost were in shock. I was like, no, my last one was really low too, and that makes sense. They gave me TRT. Trevor has just been overseeing it since, and I just stay in the normal range.
Does anyone believe that you get a physique as good as Alex Hormozi in those photos from having low levels of testosterone?
They were like almost were in shock. I was like, no, my last one was really low too. And
notice the wording. It was so low they were in shock. Why do you think that is? Well, they're looking at his physique. They're saying 200 plus pounds of muscle. Guy looks incredible. How could it be possible that you have low levels of testosterone and look like that? And you know what the doctors may have been thinking, or what I would have been thinking? Maybe he did SARMs. Maybe he took testosterone or something, caused his testosterone levels to go down. Does that not make logical sense to you? I mean, I'm just presenting the evidence. If you have a guy with an incredible physique and he walks in and his testosterone levels are at 74 nanograms per deciliter, that even after a bulk, the highest it ever been is 270. Are you more likely going to believe that that guy may have taken something, or that he just doesn't need testosterone in order to build muscle? I mean, is he breaking the laws of thermodynamics? He just doesn't need testosterone to build a lot of muscle? And let's say he is. Let's say he doesn't. Why do we then give him testosterone? If you can look that amazing, feel amazing, look amazing, why are doctors prescribing you testosterone? Well, aside from the fact that they're going to make money from him, aside from the fact that perhaps he had body dysmorphia, which would be why he would be dieting to this extent, why would he want to take testosterone? He's saying all naturals want to do a cycle. I don't think that's true at all. I think that he did because he perhaps did not feel big enough. Is he the kind of guy that goes to the gym with a pump sweater, gets a pump on, then can remove the sweater? Does he in fact feel big enough, good enough, manly enough?
Yeah, who's bigger? Am I bigger? Am I bigger? Bigger?
I don't know.
He has all the money in the world, but perhaps he's not confident with himself on the inside. Now let's examine his transformation in 2015. That's what, 3 or 4 years before he started taking HRT, of which he claims to be 100% natural during this transformation? During this transformation, in 6 weeks, I'm going to repeat that, 6 weeks, he put on 35 pounds. 35 pounds in 6 weeks. If somebody made a post and said, hey guys, I put on 35 pounds in 6 weeks, what would you all think? 35 pounds in 6 weeks. I tell people I put on 4 pounds in a month, and people think, no way, you're lying, Coach Greg. And that's when I was taking turkesterone. And so this guy, while being 100% natural, was able to put on 35 pounds in 6 weeks, and guess how? Training 3 hours a day and going on a bulk. You know, because in reality, all those movie stars that put on 35 pounds of muscle in a short period of time, and they all go to the gym, 2 or 3 times a day, and they eat chicken, broccoli, and rice, 5,000 plus calories. That's how they do it. It actually works in the real world. There's no such thing as overtraining. I mean, especially considering this guy has excessively low levels of testosterone, somewhere between 74 and 270. All he had to do was eat more food and train for 3 hours a day, and grew like a weed while having low levels of testosterone. Well, in the real world, what happens when you train 3 hours a day, overtrain and eat more, is you get fatigued, you burn out, you don't build more muscle. The science is clear. There's something known as progressive overload, training harder than last time, and overtraining is in fact a real thing. Because if you see that message, you read that post, you're going to think, well, all I need to do to put on a lot of muscle is to eat more food and train as many hours as humanly possible. Alex Hormozi gained 35 pounds in 6 weeks naturally. Here's how. August 14, 2015. Updated June 13, 2020. And so we see him here in the black shorts, 35 pounds smaller than in the blue shorts. Notice the size difference in the arms, shoulders, chest, traps, quads especially. And at the same time, do we see him getting extremely fat, obese? I'm not saying he's claiming 35 pounds of muscle, but clearly it's mostly muscle. And so let's give him the benefit of the doubt. It's half muscle and half fat. Does anyone think that while being 100% natural with low levels of testosterone, he put on 17.5 pounds of muscle in 6 weeks? Raise your hand if you believe that. Raise your hand if you believe that to be true. There are not a lot of hands out there. And so I'm sorry, I'm just telling you the news. I have my suit on. I'm trying to be professional. I'm not trying to be a hater. But he himself says, hey, I don't like when people are fake natties. And so do you think that this is a good message? How to put on 35 pounds natural in 6 weeks. Natural. And is this with newbie gains? Was it his first year in the gym? This would have been in his later years after he had already put on a significant amount of muscle. It's not as if in his before photo, he had just started working out. The guy already had an incredible physique. You just show me the guy's photo on the left, the guy in the blue shorts, and you say, Greg, what do you think about this guy? I'm going to say, wow. That's very impressive. But to make those kind of gains in 6 weeks, highly unlikely, don't you think? Even with HRT, even with SARMs, even with MK677. It's still remarkable. It's still above average. And so even if you do take performance-enhancing drugs, in 6 weeks, don't expect that scale weight to go up 35 pounds, especially if it's a lot of muscle. Now, is it possible to put on 35 pounds of mostly fat, water, and so on? Yes. For me, that would be very challenging. If you said, Coach Greg, you need to gain 35 pounds. I weigh 185. You say, you need to be 220 in 6 weeks. Your life depends on it. I think I could do it. It'd be very hard. I would certainly give up doing cardio. I would certainly give up eating healthy. I'd be eating as many calories as humanly possible. And maybe I could do it. Maybe. Do you think I could gain 17.5 of those pounds as muscle, though? Nope. If my life depended on it, and I went on test, trend, growth hormone, everything, I don't think I could make this change. I don't think I could put on that much muscle in 6 weeks, and I'm only on HRT right now, 140 milligrams a week. And remember, I have muscle memory. I was once that size years ago. And so for me, probably easier than most people. I have very good genetics. And so what Alex Hormozi wants us to believe is that in 6 weeks, he was able to dramatically transform his physique to put on 35 pounds, all while having low levels of testosterone. I mean, even with high levels of testosterone, even with growth hormone and so on, it's still a very difficult challenge. But while being natural, I don't think he did it. Gaining 35 pounds naturally takes quite a while. Unless, it takes a long time. For most people, probably 10 years or so. Unless you're willing to eat 800 grams of carbs and train for 3 hours daily. And so why not skip out on 5 to 10 years of training and just eat a lot of carbs and train for 3 hours a day? That's what Alex Hormozi did. And so are we to believe this? Should we just take this at face value? Alex Hormozi decided to try it out for himself, and the results are astounding. When you hear things like results being astounding and natural in the same sentence, you should be highly suspicious. Your spidey senses should be tingling. I don't know, but let's read on. Maybe I'm just a genetic freak. Well, it's possible, but if he was such a genetic freak, why would he put on all that muscle leading up to this? It's not like he hadn't been training hard for 5 or 10 years. Wouldn't he have already put on a bunch of muscle if he in fact had amazing genetics and was a genetic freak? I really think that to be true. Think of it. If you have amazing genetics and you've been training for a long time and you're already training hard, don't you think that you would have gotten those gains? Or do you really believe that when somebody just says, no, I just added in and trained 3-4 hours a day, I ate on a bulk, that suddenly allowed me to gain all that muscle? Overtraining, never heard of it. Essentially, everything we did flies in the face of common practice. And so what he's saying is, forget the science. Forget overtraining. That doesn't exist. We did everything the opposite of what we're supposed to do, and that's why we got these amazing results. We trained the same lifts with incredibly high volume almost every day of the week, and we forced our bodies to deal with it. I mean, for the average reader, they're thinking, oh, that makes sense, I'm just going to train bench press 10 sets a day, and I'm going to do it 6 days a week, and I'll grow 3 times as fast as if I only did bench press twice a week. The reality is it doesn't work like that. You can't just increase your gains by training more. If that was true, everyone in the Mr. Olympia would be training 3 or 4 hours a day. Or why not 10 hours a day? Don't you think that Derek Lunsford, Chris Bumstead, or Sam Sulik, all these guys would be doing 50 sets every single day of every body part if they thought they could grow muscle 10 times faster? Here is how the 6-week program is set up. 3 days on, 1 day off for 42 days of training cycle. Estimated training duration, 3 hours. And so is it really that hard? It was a 3 on, 1 off program. The only thing that's hard about it was how long the workout lasted. And total, it seems to be about 40 sets per workout. And seeing as it took 3 hours to do, it means he rested about 4 minutes between each set. And so really, it was just a very long workout with probably double the volume that he needed while resting a very long time between sets. But does anyone actually think that that's going to result in 35 pounds of growth in only 6 weeks? I mean, could we not have split the difference? Could we not just train harder than the last time, progressive overload? Or should we believe Alex Hormozi and just say, forget the science, forget the Micah Zertels of the world, forget what Jeff Nippard said, forget what anyone has ever said. Coach Greg, Jeff Cavalier, they don't know anything. What you need to do is train like all the movie stars of the world. The guys who play superheroes, guys like the Wolverine and so on, they just train 2-a-days, chicken, broccoli, and rice. They eat a lot of food, and they train for 4 hours a day. If you follow those guys' advice, that's the way to build muscle. In comparison, why would you train like Mike Israetel or Coach Greg? Why would you believe that progressive overload is a way to build muscle? There's a shortcut. There's a faster way. 35 pounds, Coach Greg is saying that takes 5 to 10 years for most people. I don't got that time, but I do in fact have 6 weeks. And on the different days, shocker, he has an AM workout and a PM workout. You got to go to the gym twice a day. And that's how he put on all this muscle while being natural. Let's say he was natural. Let's say it's just somehow he's the biggest freak in the world and he does it with low levels of testosterone. Let's give him the complete benefit of the doubt. Why would he then need HRT 3-4 years later? If he can put on 35 pounds in 6 weeks, why doesn't he just keep doing that program? Why not just keep going on? Why not just keep training the same way? If you put on 35 pounds in 6 weeks, you certainly can put on another 35 pounds in 6 years. Think of it. Is it that much to ask? You put on 35 pounds in a month and a half. Are you not going to be able to keep going, keep gaining more muscle for years to come? But yet he didn't. Why is that? Is it possible, maybe there's a small, tiny chance that he took something for that 6-week challenge? And then perhaps he stopped taking that something and then the muscles kind of went down. And then when you take something, it goes back up. And then when you stop, it goes back down. And so you cycle up and down. Just like when he first started taking testosterone. Remember he said he's going on HRT, but then he got huge, he got jacked. He looked like my friend Santana Anderson, an IFBB pro, same beard, same everything. But you want to believe it's natural because it's more fun to believe the impossible. That you can gain 35 pounds in 6 weeks, that you can look absolutely incredible, that Coach Greg's saying, hey, it really does come down to your genetics. I don't want to believe that. That if you just eat a bunch of whole eggs, that you don't need insulin, you don't need testosterone. That if you just believe in it and train hard, you can build your dream physique. Coach Greg, he says halfway there. I don't like that. I don't like him having realistic expectations, realistic goals, realistic standards, not comparing yourself to other people. I don't like that message. I just want to be jacked. And so just to hammer home the statistics so that you don't think that I'm lying, he writes them himself. His starting weight was 202. His end weight was 237. That's 35 pounds. 35. His starting body fat percentage was 15.8. His end, 18. So he only went up 2.2% body fat. The total muscle that he put on during the 6 weeks, I've worked it out, I've done the math, 22.6 pounds. 22.6. He doesn't say anything about taking testosterone, doesn't say he took any SARMs, PEDs of any sort. He's saying he did it 100% natural without even the benefits of HRT. A picture is worth 1,000 words. As you can see, these are pretty crazy before and after pictures. Ones that will be touted as steroid-induced, photoshopped, or any other mechanism that internet trolls want to suggest. But it was real. I was natty, and it was awesome. I gained back most of the weight I'd lost and then some. Most won't believe me, and I'm sure many will say no one can recover from all this volume naturally. But it's obvious that you can, so you need to change your mindset about what you think is possible. I'm also not saying that this is sustainable. I'm just saying it worked for the brief 6-week stint. I went from one 60-minute workout per week to 6 workouts a week for 3 hours a day, basically overnight. Now listen, I'm just giving you my opinion. Maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong. I don't know. I'm just telling you what I think. But I believe that out of 1 million people, I don't know if there's anyone that's going to get this kind of results in 6 weeks training the way he did. It goes against all conventional wisdom. He admits it. He's saying, yeah, throw that out the window. Overtraining, it's made up. What am I supposed to say to this? And so his girlfriend wrote, he won't say it, but he's on the lowest dose possible. People will hate because he has superior genetics and ungodly work ethic. Is he in fact on the lowest dose possible? Well, we did find out him saying in the future that he corrected that. It wasn't the lowest dose possible. He in fact started and went on a higher dose. We don't know if it's 200 milligrams, we don't know if it's 500 milligrams. But he said that for 16 weeks, about 4 months, he said, I started on HRT and I went on a higher dose. We don't know exactly what that dose is because he hasn't been completely open, honest, and transparent. He says it was higher, and since then he's lowered it down to 75 milligrams a week. Does he really need the 75? I'm asking you. I know you're not a doctor. I'm not a doctor either, but you've looked at his results. Is anyone in the world who can put on 35 pounds, of which 22 is muscle in 6 weeks, is that somebody that needs testosterone? If so, why did he need it? What problems were going on? What was the argument for why he needed it? Was it simply because his testosterone levels were at 270? Was there not another doctor that said, although it's 270, you're using it really well? You don't need a lot. And so just because a lumbar is lower and high doesn't mean that you actually need something. Does he actually need 75 milligrams? And so what I'm saying is he either has body dysmorphia and or he's forgetting, omitting details, and or is a retro fake natty. Has to be something. I presented the evidence. You've seen what I've said. He's stated he's on HRT, but he was on the lowest dose, but he wasn't always on the lowest dose. And so that physique wasn't really just HRT. It was higher dosed HRT. And so which is it? He seems like in 1 month he says one thing, and another month he says another. Remember, if you're trying to stay natural, we have lots of supplements on my website that can help. We have Turk Builder and Ecti Builder, help you build muscle. We have GO2 Max for improved cardio. Remember, it has NMN. These are amazing supplements, in my opinion, far superior to even creatine. Creatine is 50% off. And so head over to my website. If you have no money, we got the free diet and training program. Become one of the 300,000 plus newsletter subscribers. Ending it here. Subscribe, click the bell button, comment to boost the algorithm. Please like the video if you found it informative. If you liked it, give it a like. Watch one of those 2 bloops. And as always, I have the cookbook, the training book, the Circle Diet book, all the books, hard copy, PDF, various price points. You can go pick up one of those. Coaching plans by me and my team. Phone calls as well. Head over to my website. Don't forget code Greg, 15% off. And until next time, I am out.